Hello, my wonderful listeners. It's me, Fax5'em, here with another crypto article from my buddy Killin' Time. If any other listeners have a request for a category or a specific article that they want me to read, just let me know and I'll see if I can pull it off. Much like the previous Killin' Time article, this one is about the collapse of FTX from the New York Times. It is titled, Inside a Crypto Nemesis's Campaign to Rein in the Industry. Gary Gensler, the chair of the SEC, is at the center of a reckoning over the future of cryptocurrency after the implosion of FTX. Written by David Yaff Bellany, like the previous article. Originally published November 21st, 2022. Alright, let's get into this bad boy. In March, 8 months before his cryptocurrency empire exploded, Sam Bankman-Fried joined a video call with Gary Gensler, a longtime financial regulator who now leads the Security and Exchange Commission. The meeting did not go well. Mr. Bankman-Fried, the chief executive of the Bahamas-based crypto exchange FTX, wanted approval from the SEC to offer cryptocurrencies in the United States without the threat of a fine for violating securities rules. Mr. Bankman-Fried was joined on the call by FTX staff as well as business partners at the stock exchange, IEX, who began walking Mr. Gensler through a PowerPoint presentation. At about the second slide, Mr. Gensler cut them off and launched into a roughly 45-minute lecture on his vision for crypto regulation, preventing any further discussion, three people familiar with the conversation said. Wait a second. Wait. Let me reread that real fast. Okay, so, at about the second slide, it only took 2 slides? I mean, like, I don't know how they're counting it, do you count, because I'm used to slideshows, maybe the first slide's more of a cover slide. I don't know if you count that as the first. Maybe you do. But, well, how bad was this slideshow if it only took the second slide to get this guy completely pissed off? Dang, there had to be something else going on, or this was the absolute worst slideshow ever. Oh, gosh. It's little things like that, man. Now Mr. Gensler, 65, is facing off with Mr. Bankman-Fried again. FTX collapsed in epic fashion this month after a run on deposits left it owing $8 billion. The SEC and the Justice Department have opened investigations, focusing on whether Mr. Bankman-Fried illegally lent billions of dollars of his customers' funds to a hedge fund he owned, Alameda Research, which traded heavily on the FTX platform. It's a familiar position for Mr. Gensler, who has fined a series of crypto companies and promoters for securities violations since he became chairman of the SEC in April 2021, with penalties as high as $100 million. A figure whom crypto insiders love to hate, Mr. Gensler is seeking to establish the SEC as the primary overseer of the loosely regulated and freewheeling industry, creating strict guardrails that would bring it under tighter government scrutiny. People love a nemesis, said Sheila Warren, who runs the Crypto Council for Innovation and Industry Lobbying Group. He certainly has drawn some of that, almost seemingly deliberately. But the collapse of FTX has raised questions about Mr. Gensler's effectiveness. Mr. Bankman-Fried gained access to the halls of power in Washington, even as he ran an offshore company that promoted risky trading and dipped into its customers' accounts to fund other investments. After the March meeting with Mr. Bankman-Fried, Mr. Gensler's staff stayed in contact with the group that had joined the call, going back and forth on possible structures for a fully regulated exchange, 4 people familiar with the conversations said. Reports to my office allege he was helping SBF and FTX work on legal loopholes. Representative Tom Emmer, a Minnesota Republican who serves on the House Financial Services Committee, tweeted on November 10th of Mr. Gensler. We are looking into this. Mr. Gensler declined to answer questions about his handling of FTX. Under his leadership, though, the SEC has made crypto a priority, nearly doubling its enforcement team to 50 members. In February, the agency levied a $100 million fine on the crypto lending company BlockFi over registration failures. BlockFi suspended operations this month as a result of its ties to FTX. According to public filings, the agency is also investigating the process by which Coinbase, the largest U.S. crypto exchange, chooses which cryptocurrencies to offer.
There were a lot of entrepreneurs that grew up in this field and chose to be non-compliant,
Mr. Gensler said in an interview last month at the SEC headquarters in Washington.
We will be a cop on the beat.
Mr. Gensler's central claim is simple. For all their novel attributes, most cryptocurrencies are securities, like stocks or other investment products. That means the developers who issue cryptocurrencies must register with the U.S. government and disclose information about their plans. In Mr. Gensler's view, exchanges like Coinbase and FTX, where customers buy and sell digital coins, should also have to obtain SEC licenses, which come with increased legal scrutiny and disclosure obligations. The crypto industry has fought the government's efforts to classify digital assets as securities, arguing that the legal requirements are overly burdensome. Even before FTX's collapse, the debate was reaching an inflection point. A federal judge is expected to rule in the coming months in a lawsuit brought by the SEC that charges the cryptocurrency issuer Ripple with offering unregistered securities. A victory for the government would strengthen Mr. Gensler's hand, establishing a precedent that could pave the way for more lawsuits against crypto companies. A former Goldman Sachs partner, Mr. Gensler became one of the most aggressive financial regulators in Washington after the 2008 recession. As chairman of the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, an agency that regulates the financial markets, he helped carry out the 2010 Dodd-Frank Act, which aimed to protect consumers and rein in Wall Street. After he left the CFTC in 2014, Mr. Gensler became fascinated with crypto, which was exploding into the mainstream. At the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, he taught a lecture course called Blockchain and Money, and appeared optimistic about crypto's potential to transform financial markets. He still refers to Satoshi Nakamoto, the mysterious figure who invented Bitcoin, as Nakamoto-san, a gesture of respect. So when Mr. Gensler took over the SEC, the crypto industry hailed him as an enthusiast who understood the technology's potential. Bitcoin is in good hands, one venture investor tweeted. But it soon became clear that Mr. Gensler would take a hard-line approach. In July 2021, he met with a group of industry representatives, including the leader of the Blockchain Association, a prominent crypto trade group. He bluntly informed her that most of the organization's members were probably violating federal rules, two people familiar with the meeting said. A few days later, Mr. Gensler called crypto the Wild West while speaking at a national security conference in Washington. Rather than devise new rules for crypto, Mr. Gensler is focused on enforcing the current ones as broadly as possible. In July, the SEC filed an insider trading lawsuit against a former Coinbase employee, saying 7 of the digital currencies listed on the exchange were unregistered securities. The next month, Coinbase revealed in a public filing that the agency had sent the company investigative subpoenas requesting information on its listing process. Behind closed doors, Mr. Gensler has been equally aggressive.
I've heard about other groups going in and getting in arguments,
said Perry Ann Boring, the founder of the Chamber of Digital Commerce, a crypto advocacy group.
You want to have a fight? You can have one.
In crypto circles, mentioning Mr. Gensler's name elicits quivers of fury. A Twitter account for the crypto company LBRY once called him
a demon wearing human flesh.
Jeffrey Kaufman, chief executive of LBRY, which the SEC sued last year, said,
I was hopeful that an MIT professor who had studied cryptocurrency would have some semblance of fairness about him, and not be a complete sociopath.
The basis for Mr. Gensler's claim that cryptocurrencies are securities is a legal analysis known as the Howey test, which the Supreme Court outlined in 1946. Under the framework, a financial product is deemed a security when it offers the chance to invest in a so-called common enterprise with the expectation of profiting from the efforts of others. Over decades, the courts have ruled that securities law applies to a wide variety of financial products, including contracts for the sale of chinchillas. Mr. Gensler has publicly stated that Bitcoin is not a security because no central group or individual controls it. But he has hinted that Ether, the second most popular digital currency, might be a security, and has repeatedly argued that hundreds of smaller tokens should fall under the SEC's jurisdiction. He said in the interview last month,
"It's just straightforward. The rules are on the books already."
The crypto industry has countered that the SEC is trying to shoehorn digital currencies into an outdated framework. In July, Coinbase submitted a 32-page petition to the SEC, making the case that registration rules do not clearly apply to crypto exchanges. Within the agency, Mr. Gensler's approach has sometimes led to frustration, two people familiar with the SEC said. In meetings, staff members have pointed out the difficulty of extending federal securities law to cover crypto exchanges, one person said. Other SEC employees have complained that Mr. Gensler hasn't moved aggressively enough, another person said, with exchanges like Coinbase and FTX having avoided significant fines. FTX's collapse has unleashed a new level of scrutiny. Screenshots of Mr. Gensler's public meeting schedule, which show multiple sessions with Mr. Bankman-Fried, have circulated on Twitter, where crypto fans who once said Mr. Gensler was overly aggressive have now accused him of cozying up to a criminal. Mr. Bankman-Fried has not been charged with any crimes. They argue that an SEC deal with FTX would have granted the exchange a so-called regulatory monopoly, allowing Mr. Bankman-Fried to dominate the cryptocurrency market while other businesses were shut out. Some details of Mr. Gensler's meetings with FTX were previously reported by Fox Business. But much of the criticism has been opportunistic, said Lee Rainers, a crypto expert who teaches at Duke University Law School.
If you don't like him, you don't like the current SEC, then of course you're just going to blame him regardless of the facts,
Mr. Rainers said.
If Sam Bankman-Fried tried to get a meeting with the SEC and Gary Gensler said, "Absolutely not, I'll never talk to you," the Republicans would have gone ballistic prior to its collapse.
In public remarks shortly after FTX imploded, Mr. Gensler argued that too many crypto companies perform multiple financial roles at the same time, like running an exchange and making trades, an apparent reference to the close relationship between FTX and Alameda.
Why we often separate these things out is so that the public is better protected about the inherent conflicts,
he said.
It's really important to make sure that this field comes in, gets registered, gets regulated.
Much of Mr. Gensler's agenda may ultimately hinge on the ruling in the Ripple suit, which the SEC filed in December of 2020. Before the filing, Ripple's signature token, XRP, was the third most valuable cryptocurrency. It has dropped down the rankings since the SEC labeled it a security. The outcome will also draw attention in Congress, where a slate of crypto-related bills was introduced this year. When Mr. Gensler testified in front of the Senate Banking Committee in September, he was grilled by Republican senators who said the SEC was offering insufficient legal guidance to crypto companies that wanted to comply with federal law.
Not liking the answer from the SEC,
he shot back,
does not mean there is no guidance.
And there we have it. The next article in Killin' Times miniseries. I'll be honest, I guess if I ever do any article about crypto, I'll just say it's part of the Killin' Time miniseries. Well, I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, comment, like, subscribe, share it around. Give me that dopamine rush that only strangers on the internet are capable of giving me. If you have any suggestions for articles that you want me to read, whether they be specific articles or just about a certain topic, let me know and maybe I'll find a good one. Then again, You don't have to do any of this. I'm not your boss. I'm just Fax 5'em. And right now, I'm signing off.